we're going to move on to the quick little tutorials, and again it's going to be casting on, casting off, how to do regular just knit stitch, how to do stockinette, which stockinette is knit on the front, purl on the back, so I'm going to show you how to do those. I'm also going to show you how to increase and decrease stitches. So yeah, I think that was it. So they're just basic things you need when you begin knitting. So those are coming up right now. Okay, so here are the tutorials. The first one I'm going to do is called I'm doing cast-ons first. I'm only going to show you two, and these are going to be the two ones that you're going to see a lot in patterns. I apologize for the shadows. I'm trying to get the lighting so there isn't shadows, but I don't think I'm going to be able to completely avoid it right here. So the first tutorial is going to be what's called a long tail cast on. And what you do is you measure out a length of a tail for the garment you're knitting. And I'm not going to do garment length for this, but if it's for 100 stitches to start your waist, what I do is I will take my needle, leave a bit of a tail, and I will wrap my yarn around that needle however many stitches the ribbing or whatever is going to be. So say it's 100, you would do this 100 times, and that's going to generally give you the amount of yarn you're going to need. In this case, I'm just going to do this much. And then what you do is once you have your length of yarn, you're going to make a noose basically. Oh, you can see that okay? And then what you're doing, you know how to make a noose. So just make a noose, because what you want is you want the yarn to be able to like pull up to a smaller bit. Like that. Then you're going to take your needle and you're going to come from this angle, the right side needle into the hole, and you're going to pull it up tight. You're going to grab the yarn with these two fingers, like this. Take these, your thumb and your first finger, and go in between and create a diamond. And then turn your hand like this. Come under the first, up through. Grab the stitch from underneath on your forefinger. Turn this and come back through. And then pull that tight. Again, let me show you again. You got your hand, you're going to take these two fingers, twist your hand like this, grab the yarn, oh, let me make sure that's in front. I always make sure the short piece is in front. Let's try that again. Grab your forefinger and your thumb in between to create a diamond. Then take the needle, twist your hand like this, come down, in front, under, and back out so that the yarn closest to you is now on top of that right needle. Twist your arm like this, come under the front of the yarn on your forefinger, and then back through the loop. Diamond, right needle down and under that thread, twist your hand, you'll get a rhythm. Do that yarn, let's do it again. Okay, got your diamond, your hand is twisted that way, down, under, up, pull that yarn through. Right? Turn under, grab this yarn, pull it through. I'm going to try to do it even slower this time. Your hand is like this. Down, under, through, grab the yarn on your forefinger, so it's like this, through the hoop, and pull. So hopefully that makes sense. And that's called a long tail cast on. Okay, so for the next cast on, which you see quite a bit actually, it's more common than the long tail. You're still gonna make a noose. This time it's gonna be on the left hand needle. And it doesn't matter how long, well, I mean, leave enough of a tail that you can weave this into your work afterwards. Then you're gonna take the right hand needle and you're gonna go into that stitch. I'm just going to grab onto my loose tail there. You're going to grab that stitch and you're going to come around. So this is your right hand needle, okay? You're going to come around and behind that right hand needle and pull it through the first stitch and pop that onto your left hand needle. Hopefully you can see this okay. So you're going to go into the front of the stitch that's currently on the left hand needle, come through it, so the right hand needle is on top of that needle. You're going to wrap the stitch, it's kind of hard to see with my hand going over, but you're going to wrap the stitch around that right hand needle and then pull that yarn out and pop it onto the left hand needle. Again, in the front of the stitch, push your right hand needle through, wrap the yarn under and around the right hand needle so it's at the back of the right hand needle, slide your needle catching that yarn and pulling it out and popping it onto the left hand needle. Let's do one more. Coming through that loop from the front. I know some people do it from the back, which is fine. I do it from the front myself. Right needle through that loop, coming from underneath, wrap the yarn under, behind, and pull it up, and then pull out the yarn, and then put it on the thread, the left needle. So that is just like a standard everyday cast on. Okay, so now that I have shown you how to cast on, we're going to do the knit stitch. I use the long tail method to cast on for this particularly. I have done a little bit already because I wanted to show you what the texture looks like. And the front and the back look the same. Anyone that's just learning how to knit right now, like anything, it's just practice. So I'm using a heavier worsted yarn as well as 4mm. In the intro, couldn't remember the style of knitting that she taught me. I mean, we call it the Grandma Betty method, but it is actually English style knitting, and in English style knitting, you throw the yarn. And I do know that, so how she taught me how to do the knit stitch was you come in from behind. Another method to do a knit stitch is to come in from the front. Like this, but that's not how I learned. So do whichever of those two ways is more comfortable. Okay, so let's get started. So literally the knit stitch is, you're doing this for all the rows. Okay, so you're coming in either from the front or from behind, whichever is comfortable for you. Let's slow this down a bit. So you're either going in front or behind, in my case behind, throwing the yarn over the right hand needle and pulling through. So you're knitting into the first stitch on the left hand needle, throwing the yarn around if you're doing English style knitting, and then pulling it off. So wrap the yarn around, pull it under and through the first loop on the left, and then pull it off. Put the needle in the loop on the left hand needle, wrap your yarn around, then grab that yarn that's on the right hand needle and pull it through, and pull the stitch on the left hand needle off. Put your needle in through the loop on the left hand, wrap the yarn around, pull that yarn through with the right hand needle, and pull that stitch on the left hand needle off. Okay, that is the, let's do 2 rows. So that's row 1. Okay, and this is row 2. And for row 2, you're literally going to do the exact same thing. You are going to just do that knit stitch. And that is why the front and the back look exactly the same. In this next section, I'm technically going to be teaching you 2 different stitches. The stockinette stitch, which is what this ends up being, and the purl stitch. So to do the stockinette stitch, you need to do a knit stitch on the front, purl on the back. Or, well, it depends what you're knitting. Sometimes a pattern will actually require you to have the purl on the front, but more than likely this stitch is going to be on the front. So to get this stitch, I apologize for all the noise of my needle. The front you're going to do, and we just showed it, I just showed it to you, the knit stitch. Just grab some yarn here. So you're going to do the knit stitch. I'm going to do this a little quick. If you need to review it, it'll be the stitch right before this one in the video. Okay, I'm just going to do a section here. And again, I'm using English style knitting. Okay, so there is a bunch of knit stitches. So what you're going to do, I'm just going to turn it here as opposed to finishing the row. You're going to do, and see the difference in the texture? This is going to be, this is called purl, and how I was taught to purl was to come in through the front. Now, other people come in from the back this way to do their purl stitch. I'm going to continue using the one that I was taught by my grandma. So it's coming in the front of the needle. And then, so you're going to take your right needle into the front of the loop that's on the left needle. You're going to wrap that yarn around that needle so it's underneath. Then you're going to pull the right needle under the left needle grabbing the yarn that you just threw over, which is this, and then you're going to pull it off. All right, you're going to wrap the needle, and you're going to pull it through, and you're going to pull that stitch off. You're going to go in front of the left needle, wrap your yarn, the right needle, grab that yarn that you just wrapped around, pull it off. See? Wrap the yarn, grab it as you're pulling the needle through, pull it off. Let's do it a few more times here. I'm going to try to slow it down. I don't know if you're able to see this or not. Okay. And then when you come around to the other side, oops, untangle my yarn here. When you come around to the other side, you're going to do the knit stitch again, and then purl, and then knit, and then purl, and then knit. So while we're here, I just wanted to show you, if you are knitting and you realize somewhere down here, uh-oh, I did a purl instead of a knit, or I screwed up a stitch, you can actually drop a stitch down and then using a crochet hook, pick that stitch back up. Now, these are 4mm needles. I always make sure that the needle, the crochet hook that I'm using is also the same. So this is also 4mm crochet hook. Now, to fix that stitch, you're not knitting across, okay? Well, you can if you want, but I would just move the needles over to a right-hand needle. So you get to the row where that stitch is an issue. Drop the stitch off and then count how many stitches you come down. And I usually use the opposite end of the crochet hook, the blunt end, I guess. And I just pull the stitches out of the loop until I get down to the stitch I want to fix. See? Now, because it's the front and the knit stitch, you're going to pull that loop, the last loop, to the front. You're going to keep the stitches you just pulled out, the yarn you just pulled out, to the back. You're going to put your crochet hook in, if I can get it in there, into the loop in the front of your work. Then you're going to grab the first closest yarn, and then you're going to come up underneath it, have the yarn sitting on top grabbing the hook, and pull it back through that hoop. Let's do that again. So you're going to take the crochet hook, go under the yarn that is loose behind, you just pulled this out, right? Bring it to the front, have the hook part on top, let it grab into the hook, pull it back through the loop. And the reason I'm saying doing this way is that you're not going to twist your stitches. You're going to still have that consistent knit stitch in the front. Okay, again, so you're going to, oh, and my needle, my stitches just fell off my needle. I'm just going to leave them for now. You're going to grab that yarn, pull it through the hoop. Oops. Also, sometimes you have to be careful to make sure it comes completely through, which this is not for some reason. And as you get back up towards the top, it might get a little tighter. Oh. There we go. And pull it through. And then go up to the next one and pull it through. And then put that back. Oh, I'm pulling stitches out on the other side. Onto your needle. Unfortunately, my yarn is unwrapping a bit, but okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is how to do a decrease, and this is just a basic decrease. There are several different ways to decrease stitches, and these are going to be how to decrease on the end. So here we have our stockinette stitch, and this is also called, this particular stitch is called knit two together, which you might see as K, the letter, or the number 2, TOG. So you're going to take 2 stitches on the end. Now, depending on the pattern, it could say knit 1, then knit 2 together. It could say knit 3, knit 2 together. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to do it on the end. So start at the end. I'm just going to show you a few across, but so to decrease, you're going to take the last 2 stitches and you're going to put your right needle through both of those stitches. So there are 2 of them together here. And then you're going to knit it like you would knit a regular stitch. And then pull both those stitches off. Now, if you're, as an example, doing an armhole and you need to do the decreases for the armhole, and say you have to do 5 or 6 decreases to get the armhole started, to do a continuous decrease, you're going to put the right hand needle loop back on the left hand needle, and you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to take 2 stitches, put the right needle into them, and knit 2 together. You're going to put that stitch back on. You're going to take those 2 stitches and knit them as one. And then you're going to see what that looks like. And that's decreases. Okay, so for increases, we're going to start on the end here. You're going to, as if you're doing a knit stitch, you're going to wrap the yarn around, pull it through, but don't pull that stitch off the left hand needle, and then you're going to knit into the front of that stitch, wrap the yarn, and then you can pull them off. And now you've got 2 stitches. Let's do that again. I'm going to do the motion as if you're knitting the stitch, but not pull it off. Put the needle in through the front and back in through that loop again that's still on that needle. Do another knit and then pull it off. And one more time. Knit as if you're going to actually knit the stitch. Not pull it off, do not pull it off. Come back through the front of the loop. and then knit that stitch, and then you can pull it off. And then that is, you've now got 2 stitches knit into 1 stitch. And that's your increases, a very basic increase. Okay, so the next stitch I'm going to teach you is called ribbing. There are multiple ways to rib. You can do a 1-on-1 or 1-by-1, a 2-by-2, a 3-by-3, etc. A lot of garments start with ribbing, also sleeves have ribbing, and necklines usually have ribbing. So this, I am doing a 2-by-2. And what you're doing for a 2-by-2 is you're going to knit 2 stitches. It's very, very easy. Purl 2 stitches. Knit 2 stitches. Purl 2 stitches. That is basic ribbing. Like very, very basic. Knit, purl, knit, purl. Or you're going to do knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, or you're going to do knit 3, purl 3, knit 3, you know, depending on what the pattern calls for. But that is basically ribbing. It's very, very simple. And what ribbing also does is it keeps your garment from rolling up. So it stabilizes the hem of a garment. Okay, those are all the stitches. I hope you found this useful.